will make a change in our agenda, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce Ms. Jessica Lynch with Baker Tilly. And Jessica, my apologies, you cannot see me, can you?
I cannot, no.
I am so sorry. I had a council member who was very gracious trying to help me as well get this corrected beforehand. I've got some video issues, so I promise you we all are here in the room. You're not just talking to me. And so
I can hear people in the background, but I see a nice gray line through a camera.
yeah, well, with regarding me, that's you've got the best image anyway. So, but I will turn it over. I will turn around to the room, so basically, so they can see you. Unfortunately, I know you can't see them, so my apologies. But I will turn it over to you, and then if you want to go ahead and start with our reviews, I didn't know if you wanted to start with the water utility or the sewage utility first.
It does not matter to me. Do you have a preference?
I do not, so I'll leave that ball in your court if you want to go ahead and get us started.
All right. Well, I have the water pulled up, so let's. And you said water first, so.
That'll work.
Right. I don't know. Did Jan have a chance, or Monty, to print out the reports for the council?
Yes, she sure did, or they did, and each council member has a report in front of them.
Perfect. You may be familiar, we changed the format of these reports last year, I believe, so this is the second year for this format. But so starting with the water utility and moving to page 2, I believe that's where you'll see the first table. And this shows the historical fund balances of the water utility. So increased a little bit from 2018 to 2019, but staying kind of steady there from 2019 to 2020. And we'll go through kind of the main drivers of that and why you were able to maintain kind of consistent cash balances, even with the pandemic in 2020. Going to table 2, this shows, there's a lot of numbers going on in this table, but it's all the operating disbursements are the white bars on the left of each year. So around 800,000, you can see that it's declined a little bit each year, around 30,000 or so. Don't know if people are just being conservative in their consumption or would have to look into that more, but it's just a slight decrease. But your disbursements, which is the teal color, the larger of the disbursement column, stays around 500,000, so that's been pretty consistent over the last 3 years, as well as your capital improvements and your debt, and then your payment in lieu of taxes are those other disbursements that are being paid by the water utility, and those are pretty consistent each year. Of the largest of your disbursements, the operating disbursements, 500,000, if you move down to table 3, you'll see over the last 3 years a pie chart, and the majority of those disbursements are on personnel, so that's salaries and wages, as well as any payroll taxes, and then also all the benefits of your employees. So health insurance, dental insurance, any of those kind of insurance or post-employment benefits. PERF as well is paid out of there. And then the second highest for your water utility is purchase power, those electricity costs. And then it gets pretty lower, under 10% for each of the other large categories: repairs and maintenance, materials and supplies. The insurance that you see, the light yellow, which is 3%, that's your general liability or your property insurance, so that is not health insurance or dental insurance. Those insurance items are the personnel piece of the pie. And then moving on to table 4, which is on page 4, you'll see those cash balances that have been on page, or in table 1 on page 2, and those cash balances or fund balances further broken down by how much is in each fund of the water utility. And then that gray bar that's going across kind of the top of those fund balances is the required reserves, and those are required per your bond ordinance. And so you'll see that your cash balances, although they stayed steady 2019 and 2020, they declined a little bit to 2020, but they're still above those required reserve balances, so you're still in compliance with those bond requirements.
I've
been
got a
building
question on
up
that.
the reserves in the water tower fund. I believe that's for tank painting, so that has increased each year.
And Jessica, we do have a question on the floor, if that's all right.
Yes, that's fine.
Councilman Conklin. Good evening.
Why was there a huge, basically doubled in operation and maintenance in 2020 versus 2019? I don't know if she can hear me. Could you hear me?
Could you hear that double? I'm wondering about the double of operation and maintenance in 2020 compared to 2019.
Okay, what was that again? What was the question?
Curious as to what caused the doubling of operation of maintenance.
Table 4.
Table 4.
Table 4.
In 2020 versus 2019. So where it went from 47 to 90.
I think that that's probably just the there was a decrease in the depreciation fund. So I don't know if maybe more capital payments were paid from, or capital improvements were paid from the depreciation fund instead of the operating fund.
I think
and where those are categorized. So sometimes we'll do expense analysis of all of your operating and capital improvements and make sure that they're being paid from the appropriate fund, so that none of those capital improvements are being paid from the operating fund.
Okay, so in other words, that 90 should have been higher the previous 2 years?
Well, I think there was just a shift in maybe some of the operating disbursements were less in 2020. So in 2019, operating disbursements were about $503,000, and they were $494,000 in 2020. So not a huge difference, but then there was a large increase in the capital improvements. So just adding to your operating cash balances, I believe.
Okay. Jan, was there something?
Well, I was gonna say, because I think what I do is I transfer what's above our reserves and the operating balance and the operating fund. I transfer that to the depreciation. So I think if you look at the depreciation, there's more in that depreciation year of 2019. I think that was, I had transferred money out of the operating fund that shouldn't have been transferred at that point. Because see, there's only $47,000 in the operating
Jan makes a good point.
fund.
So the only amount that's required to be in that operating fund is 2 months of operations. So per the bond ordinance, anything above and beyond that you can transfer to the depreciation fund to be used for other purposes.
Correct.
Okay.
And I think I transferred too much at the end of the year. It came back in, as you see, in 2020, but like, I think I transferred too much to the depreciation fund, which is the gray. So I mean, the money's there. It's just went into the depreciation fund in 2019 when it shouldn't have.
Okay.
Right, and there is no minimum requirement for that depreciation fund.
Right.
We had 2 significant water main breaks in that year that were expensive to fix. So.
Thank you, Jessica.
You're welcome. And Jan, that's probably what you were doing, because the minimum balance for the operating fund was $82,000 for 2020. So you're probably just making sure it stayed around that required minimum.
Yes.
All right. Then moving on to table 5. So we'll start looking here on page 5 is where we start comparing the actual line item receipts and disbursements to what had been budgeted for the year for calendar year 2020. And in table 5, you can see the receipts. And overall, the actual receipts were under what were budgeted, a total amount of $23,094. And the main reason for that is the ethanol plant receipts. There was actual receipts in 2020 of only 11 months from the ethanol plant. And when we looked at the historical billings, there was actually in January, they were billed for December and January. So there were 2 months that were in that bill. So there was only 11 months reflected in 2020. And then in table 6, your operating disbursements, comparing that to what was budgeted for the year. The actual expenses were under budget by about $40,000. And that was primarily due to personnel and then also outside services and repairs and maintenance being under budget. But historically, you want to make sure that you budget your repairs and maintenance high enough, just as I think I heard earlier mentioned, when you do have those water main breaks, they can be pretty expensive. So
Yeah.
those repairs are up there, so you want to have your budget at a level to support that. Moving on to table 7 is the debt service on your outstanding bonds, and the budget was based on the actual principal and interest, the annual principal and interest on those bonds. And then table 8, the capital, that budget is provided to us by Monty and Jan. You'll see that that was under budget on what was actually paid for in 2020 by $99,000 due to delaying some of the capital improvements. And there's more detail on the capital improvements on page 12, which we'll look at later in the report. Then moving on to page 7, that brings together all of the change in cash, so all your receipts, disbursements, debt service, capital, and payment in lieu of taxes. So overall change in your cash was a little under $7,000, a decrease of $7,000 in cash, where it was budgeted to deplete cash by $123,000. And as mentioned above, most of that we believe is due to delaying some of those capital improvements, but then also not receiving as much in receipts from the ethanol plant. Table 9, then we take the actual receipts for 2020 and project forward for 5 years. So to be conservative, we tend to keep the receipts constant. The one that we did change, so you'll see that metered sales, the Union City, Ohio receipts, fire protection, reconnect fees, and other, those all stayed consistent with what was actually received in 2020. However, the ethanol plant receipts, we did normalize that to not only include 12 months instead of the 11 months from 2020, but also adjusted for that industrial rate increase that was adopted by the council. The rate increase from, I believe it was about 55 cents to 61.5 cents per 100 cubic feet. So we adjusted for that, bringing up your annual receipts to be around $850,000, a little over $850,000 a year going forward. Then moving on to table 10 on page 8, you'll see, so the 2021 budget is based on what is provided to us from Jan and Monty for the water utility, and then we use that budget and project forward the next 4 years. You'll see that some of the changes or differences between the actual disbursements for 2020 is a small increase to the personnel, so that could be anything from salaries and wages to health insurance, FICA or payroll taxes or PERF. And also a small increase in the repairs and maintenance and materials and supplies for those, if there's any of those larger repairs that are needed in the coming years. Then table 11 is your outstanding debt service. It's based on the 2009 bonds that are currently outstanding and the amortization schedule. So it's around $19,000 to $20,000 a year. Table 12 on page 9 is the capital improvements. And this, again, there's further detail on page 12 that we'll go through. But so this table 12 is based on, so we have the loan repayment and the radio read. There's just one more year of those. And then the capital improvements for the next 5 years. What we have on that line item is actually showing a reduction in what was provided from Monty for the capital improvement plan to be able to maintain a balance of almost 167,000, which is your annual depreciation or your annual capital improvements. Sorry. So that would be where you'd want to keep capital improvements at to be able to maintain those current cash balances, with the depreciation fund at 167,000, and so I believe it's at 200,000 now. And then you'll see also with that reduction in the capital improvements, just below table 12 at the bottom of page 9, shows bringing in together all the receipts, the operating disbursements, debt service, capital, and payment in lieu of taxes. And there would be a slight decrease this year, but then increasing cash around $35,000 each year if those capital improvements were delayed, and to maintain that cash balance in the depreciation fund. However, if you're moving on to page 10, in table 13, you will see what would happen to cash reserves if those capital improvements per the improvement plan are not delayed. So you'll see that in year 2021, the cash balance would be under the required, this is required and recommended reserve. So you do note that there is that balance in the depreciation fund of about 167,000, which is not a required reserve, that's just recommended based on the capital improvement plan. But so you'll see where the cash balances in 21 are a little bit under that by 586,000, but not more than 167,000. So you would still be above your required reserves. But then in 2022, which we'll see on page 12, there's a large number of capital improvements planned for that year, which is what is driving that depletion in the cash reserves. And then it would build back up after those capital improvements if those were completed in 2022, but still under those required reserve amounts. Table 14 on page 10 shows Union City's current rates based on 533 cubic feet to the state average. So water, you're a little under the state average on water, where it's around it's $21.96, and the state average is $25.44. But for sewer, it's over by about $15, and I believe these state averages, our 2020 state average rate study has not come out yet, so these are still based on 2018. When we did that comparison study in 2018, and you've had a rate increase since then for your sewer, so that's probably that's the main difference between Union City and the state averages right now, is just the timing of when that report was compiled. And then for the supplemental data, so on page 11, that's the amortization schedule of your currently outstanding 2009 bonds. Final maturity on those is January 1 of 2029, so about 7 years left on that, 7-8 years. And then page 12 is where I had mentioned the capital improvement plan that was provided by Monty. So the main, you'll see those larger items in 2022, the south water main improvements and then the south plant filters. If those come in at those estimated amounts and are completed in 2022, that would be the reduction in your cash reserves if they're not financed via another method. And then the page 13 shows your current rates and charges that were adopted in 2016. The ethanol plant's new rate is not included on there, but that was just increased. And then page 14 shows your current water rates compared to local and similar sized communities within the state of Indiana. So on the lower end, based on those 4,000 gallons or 533 cubic feet of surrounding cities and towns or similar sized cities and towns. Are there any questions on that?
Any questions? Not at the moment.
Okay.
Thank you, Jesse.
You're welcome. Next, we'll go to sewer. I chose to end with sewer because that's the good one. The water one, we have to talk about delaying capital improvements to maintain cash balances, but sewer, you're looking great. So if we move to page 2, table 1, you'll see in 2018 and 2019, the cash balances were around 1.4 to 1.5 million. And then in 2020, increased cash balances to almost 1.9 million. So you can see, even with the pandemic, with that rate increase, you're starting to build up those cash balances. There is about 250,000 of that is the required interest payment on the bands that just got paid off in March. So it's a little arbitrarily high just because of that. And then on page 3, table 2, you'll see, so again, the white portion of the receipts bar is around that 1.2 million in operating receipts. And you'll see a slight increase from 19 to 20 in operating receipts from 1.22 to about 1.24 million, most likely driven by that rate increase. I believe it was a 2% rate increase for the first phase. But then you'll see the green portion, which is the larger portion of that bar, which is also kind of offset by the disbursements in the gray portion of the disbursements bar. And that is the rural development project that was being funded from band proceeds through the Indiana Bond Bank and the rural development program. And you'll see a majority of those receipts and disbursements in 2020 where that project was completed, and then the bands with the Indiana Bond Bank paid off through rural development, I believe in March of this year. Table 3, pretty similar story to the water utility. Over the last 3 years, a majority, a little over half of the operating disbursements were for those personnel costs. And then 15% was for purchase power, the next largest. And then you get into your repairs and maintenance, insurance, materials and supplies, and some of those other operating disbursements. Table 4 breaks down those fund balances, or the total cash balance from table 1. And you'll see that the gray bar now for your required reserves is much less than those balances, but you're building up those significant cash balances in depreciation and improvement fund to be able to fund maybe some larger capital improvements from cash on hand in the future. Your operating disbursements pretty consistent, or your operating cash, pretty consistent around 105 to 110,000 based on Jan just transferring money to the depreciation fund to maintain the required minimum balance. And you will see in the construction fund, that dark green, in 2019, there was $324,907. That was a transfer that I believe the city then got reimbursed for. That rural development, when we were doing these reports last year, noticed that they had you contribute money twice. So we had that reimbursed. And then I believe there was about $43,000 at the end of the year that was used towards that payoff of the bands to issue the long-term debt through rural development in March. In table 5, your actual receipts, pretty close to what had been budgeted for 2020. They're overall over by almost 300,000. Part of that is due to the trailer park stormwater infiltration. That was a lot higher in 2020 than it had been in previous years, almost $30,000 more. And then also that line item, the $286,496, that was the reimbursement that I had mentioned from rural development, wherein in 2019 they had you contribute around $300,000 to the project when that had already been contributed from prior issue debt service and debt service reserve fund. So rural development reimbursed the sewage works for that amount. Then you'll also see the band proceeds and the grant proceeds coming in there to support the project costs through rural development. Table 6, the operating disbursements. We're under budget in 2020 by about $77,000, primarily due to the repairs and maintenance and outside services being under budget. But again, those are usually, the budget amounts are higher just in case you have any of those larger repairs or lift station expenses or main breaks. Table 7, you'll see the debt service is all zero right now, just because the city had paid off. There was bonds outstanding from 2006 that got paid off when the bans were issued in 2019 through the Indiana Bond Bank, and those bans didn't mature until March 18th of 2021. So there was no debt service in the year 2020 as the interest was capitalized and not capitalized, but the interest was not due until payoff on March 18th. Table 8, the 2020 budget for the capital improvements is over budget by almost 1.8 million, and that is just due to the RD project being ahead of schedule, and the band proceeds funded that amount, that difference. The other capital improvements were a little over by about 63,000. I don't have the detail of what was all in that. Lee, I don't know if Jan knows off the top of her head. I can look it up. No.
She does not at the moment.
Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, there were some larger. Let's go to that page. 30,000. There was a sewer extension to Union Tube Mill.
Yeah.
That was a lot of it. There was one other. Find it. 2,100, and then and then a purchase of a truck. 2015 Chevy Silverado truck.
From the police department.
From the police department, yeah.
Yep.
Yep. So those were the main reasons for being over. And then you'll see, even though the capital was over on page 7, you'll see the change in cash and investments compared to budget actually was better, and we in actuality increased cash by 409,000 almost, where it was budgeted to increase by about 379,000. So increased about $30,000 more than anticipated. And then table 9, the estimated receipts. So moving forward, projecting out 5 years, takes into account, so you'll have the actual activity for 2020, but then there is another phase of the rate increase in 2021 of 2%, and then the last and final phase, phase 3 of that rate increase, another 2% in January of 2022. And so then those receipts staying constant after that, at about a little over 1.3 million. Table 10, the operating disbursements are for budgeted year 2021. We received from Jan and Monty, and then increased those 3% for the 4 years projected forward. You'll notice just a slight increase in personnel and purchase power, and then again that larger increase for repairs and maintenance. In table 11, you'll see, again, no debt service in 2020, but then in 2021, paying off those 2019 bans and as well as the principal amount and the interest on those bans, and then beginning payments on the long-term revenue bonds with rural development. And those are around $267,000 annually then moving forward after this year. And then table 12 shows there's further detail on page 13 of the capital improvements, similar to water, but after this large RD project, staying right around $103,000 a year. And then, so we bring all that together on page 9 and show just a little bit of a decrease in cash, a decrease of $180,000 just due to timing of receiving those funds from rural development and the Indiana Bond Bank and the RD project. And then paying off the bans. But then moving forward in 2022 through 25, adding to those cash balances, but then getting out to 2025 where we're not adding as much, taking another look at that once we get further out there, just continuing to monitor it to make sure we are continuing to add those cash balances and bring up those cash reserves. You'll see on table 13 a different story from the water utility, where the cash balances currently are well above the required or recommended reserves. And that's largely due to being able to fund some of those larger capital improvements from cash on hand, so you don't have to issue debt in the future. And then here, just the same table 14, the same story with the Union City's current rates compared to the state average. The supplemental data, so pages 11 and 12 is the amortization schedule on the 2021 sewer bonds that were just issued with rural development. And then page 12, or page 13, sorry, shows that capital improvement program. Right now, the only thing really in there is the lateral replacement rehabilitation program, so I don't know if there's any other large plans for capital improvements. We do have an allowance for unforeseen events in there, and in both the replacements and improvement budget, so it gets to around $45,000. And then your current rates and charges on page 14 shows your current rates, which was that phase 2 of the rate increase, which was 2%, and then the next phase 3 of 2% is effective January 1 of 2022. Showing those current rates. And then page 15, well, the state average, or the table that showed the state average, just because of timing on when that report, the comparison study was put together, showed you a little higher than the state average for your community size. You'll see you're a little over the midway point, but not at the top of this graph of local and similar sized Indiana communities for your rates based on 4,000 gallons or 534 cubic feet. Are there any questions on that?
Any questions? Jessica, you did a wonderful job.
Oh, thank you.
And I appreciate
It's a lot of information, I know.
Yes. No, but we've come a long way. Amazingly, the wastewater construction went off pretty much unhitched with everything that we encountered over this past year. So we've been very fortunate.
That is excellent. And there were no delays or anything with COVID?
We had one weekend of a delay, and literally, and then outside of that, it's been full bore. So,
that's great news.
Yeah, we're very, very fortunate. So, well, listen, is there anything else?
That is all I have for you you. If anybody does have any questions that they think of afterwards, Jan and Monty both know how to get in touch with me, so feel free to give me a call or send me an email.
We will do that.
All right.
Jessica, thank you so
everyone.
much.
Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
All right, and we'll go ahead and proceed to the department reports. And
You're fine, I'm gonna be here all evening, so you can go on.
you sure? Okay. I do not have anything at the moment that's going to change dramatically, probably in the next meeting. So we'll proceed to department heads. Actually, Jan, do you have anything?
No.
Council members. Tito, we'll start with you.
I don't have one thing, but I do have a question. Did we purchase already the swim team's starting blocks? And the reason I ask is because I know they had broken the cement there where they were going to place them. But I see it's been cemented over.
Yeah, they put,
That was in preparation for those blocks. They
Yeah.
had to take out the old cement and put the new in with the,
it's got the mounting.
The mounting is in there? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Looked pretty smooth to me, so I didn't see.
Yeah, I think they're flush.
Okay, cool.
So,
That's all I have.
Good question. Tim?
I don't have it.
Nate?
One quick reminder, community cleanup is before the next council meeting, so those of you in the community willing and interested to participate, it is Saturday, May 22nd at 10 a.m. We're gonna meet here at the community room in front of these buildings and kind of disperse. I am going to double check, but I'm pretty sure as long as you put things in front of your house that can be thrown away, like normal, like if you have a couch, that can be picked up by the city group, including, I've got to confirm with Brad, he was out last week. Gonna double check with that, but no refrigerators, no Freon, no TVs, no paint, no hazardous materials, all that would need to go to Pollution Solutions in Winchester. Otherwise, we'll take as many volunteers as possible to clean up downtown surrounding areas and gonna try to work our way to the park and see where we can help some of the elderly as well. So if you are free, I know the calendar is looking like the weather should be pretty good that far out. Let's knock on wood. I didn't think we'd be wearing sweatshirts and pants this week of May, but as we get closer, we'll know. But if you are willing, interested, and able, please come to the community room, and we'll be going at 10 a.m., shooting for around 1 or 2, depending on how things go accordingly. So
Excellent.
that's all I got.
Good job. Bob?
I just had one thing, there was no petitions filed for the month of April, so there'll be no area planning commission meeting this month.
Okay.
That's all I got.
All right. Brandon?
No points of discussion today.
All right, no problem. Move on. Monty?
They're just finishing up the streetscape phase 2 out here, doing the boring for the electric right now. And then as soon as they get that done, they'll be planting the trees and such in the planting beds. They are just ready to begin demo on the sidewalks on West Oak Street for the Community Crossings project. And hopefully we'll have all our gas lines and water lines fixed up there by the time they get ready to do that. We also were awarded our second Community Crossings grant project, so
Covers a chunk of Howard Street and
yeah.
it's like 5 streets.
Yeah, about 5 streets in that for repaving, so that was nice.
Is that gonna include sidewalks at all, or just streets?
No, just streets in that one.
Okay.
So just a question,
The next council meeting, can you say what streets that will be? And
Yeah.
I don't know, would you have a timetable yet?
Well, it'll be next year.
Next year, okay, all right.
We'll do that one.
Okay,
yeah.
perfect.
so did I understand right, that on Oak Street then we're gonna be demolishing some sidewalks?
Yeah, that block of, between Oak and Howard.
Both sides.
Both sides, we're replacing the sidewalks there.
Uh-huh,
Yeah,
okay.
much needed. And then the street will be repaved as
Yeah.
well. Thank goodness.
And then we'll do a section of Howard from Oak to Division,
Okay.
so.
So in front of the backstay?
Up to the backstay.
To the back stage.
To the
Oh, okay.
intersection, and
To
then
Howard
going
Street.
north of
Got it,
Howard.
okay.
So,
I had a question for you, Monty.
sure.
Any idea when those barrels are gonna be out of the way here at the corner?
Well, that's what actually, they had to do that so they could do the horizontal boring.
Okay.
Couple just for the boring system, but a couple so they could locate gas and water mains so they wouldn't drill it.
Will that be resolved this week? I've seen
Yeah,
a couple close calls last week and I
I'm hoping that they're done with that tomorrow.
Okay, cool.
but I just don't know.
You got a lot done today.
Depends on what they run into or if they literally run into something, which I
Let's
hope
hope
they
not.
don't, but yeah, and they'll patch those back and we'll be back in business.
Which, add that.
We would steel plate those, but the other parts of our steel plates are by the gas companies using it now. And we've got a couple over water line cuts up there too, so. A lot of stuff going on with that.
We will all be happy at the end.
That's right, it'll be nice when we get done with it, so. Treatment plant's winding down there, they've got, they'll be demolishing out the control panel and putting in the new SCADA control panel for the retention pond and the valving for that. And then they had a tremendous amount of rain, of course, out there over the weekend, and Rob had to go out there about 5 times, but we've got the new retention pond's about half full.
So we didn't have any overflow.
Oh, no overflows at all. And plant is processing it really well, so he was pleased with how that went. And,
That was quite the test over the weekend.
Yeah,
yeah,
I think 2.5.
really quite a hit there. Should be receiving our the American Rescue Act funds in a week or so. We just got notification on that. And there's a final rules come out from Treasury, so I'm looking over that. It appears as though they've really loosened up what you can use it for, so that will help in some areas. And other than that, I think that's all I have. Oh, I'm sorry. I've got a change order for the stormwater project.
Okay.
Where they had to do they found an additional manhole. We were only gonna do 4 manholes and they ended up doing 5 because one was buried under asphalt at Howard and Clifford. And the other part of that was when they lined this extra horrible storm line up here on Columbia Street, there was a place in there and that line was all chunked together. It's like patched over years and years, where it went from like 8-inch to 12-inch. So they had to put a transition liner in there and then go to a larger liner for the rest of that run. So that was extra expense, but it is an increase of $9,116.20, which is still contained within the grant, so. But it just was not planned for.
Right. Do they have a copy of that, or do you want to pass that down? Because we'll
Yeah.
take a look at it.
Do we need to do anything with that, make a motion or anything?
Need to approve the
Just
change.
approve the change order.
Okay.
Yeah. Because there's still a significant amount of money left in that grant, so that we may not even be able to use, so So yeah, it would cover this with not a problem. And the other thing, at the next council meeting, we'll probably need to do that backstay alley dedication, so I'll have that put together for the.
That'd be awesome. Did you have any luck finding out anything on the tax abatement for owner occupancy, purchasing from landlord?
Yeah, but not that it would incentivize the sale.
Okay.
It would incentivize the purchase
Okay.
a little bit, but not the sale. Brian is here, he may have some more on
Do you
that.
want to speak to that, what you had in mind?
What's that?
Or what you suggested? We talked about the rental properties converting to owner occupancy.
Oh.
Can you stand up, state your name and address?
We're on TV. They might be on the camera.
I think yeah, the camera can't see you. The side of it.
Back, 3 years ago, the council discussed with the possibility of backstay coming on board that we're going to have an abundance of rental properties. And we have already abundance of rental properties that really skirt the minimum standards. And so we had a council meeting with probably 30 or 40 rental owners stating that we were being harsh on them or whatever else. Well, a lot of their properties are, if you live in a community, you have an obligation to your neighbors. And I got some neighbors that don't give a crap. And I'm getting off the topic here because that's the reason why I came up here tonight. I'm just pissed off that looking at some of these properties. And if you give an incentive to a landlord to turn it into a homeowner's property, we'd all be better off. Homeowners typically take better care of their properties, and they have an incentive. Because they live there. And if you're renting, you really don't really care. I can show you some down on Pearl Street. I can show you some on Oak Street. I can show you some on Columbia Street. That people just let their properties go. And if the concept, if you give someone an incentive to fix up their property and sell it, but it has to be approved by what we were looking at by the council to be able to take a first-hand look and see whether it's even presentable to make it into a first-time home buyer or a home buyer. And right now, for me, typically, I'm selling every rental I have as they come available, and we're getting pretty much the asking price. And I had an offer on one in Winchester, one within 3 days after I listed. So the market's there, and if the landlords want to diverse themselves and get themselves out of maybe with so many rental properties, that we take a look at offering some sort of incentive, because some of these, and I'm ashamed that I didn't have our code enforcement put a boot in some of these people's butts a little stronger, because it's a shame to see what some of these people are renting right now. I didn't want to come across that harsh, but I'm glad I did, because I'm just sick of it. And I know a number of you are here too. And I just took a 40-minute bike ride around town, and I probably counted 30 yards that need to be mowed. I mean, and some of them are landlords are out of town. Most of them are rental properties. And I know a couple in particular, they're from Winchester, and if their yards are growing in Winchester, they're sure as hell grown here, and some of them haven't been mowed in 3 or 4 weeks. So, any other questions for me? Aren't you glad I came?
Do we have the property?
I was missing this.
Do we have the addresses of those properties?
I've turned in some of them already.
Okay.
And actually, some have been turned in for several months. So,
Well, for mowing?
no,
Not for mowing.
for
Okay.
rental
Okay.
issues. Got somebody down there that's got it.
Well, yeah.
Just from one step, even if the incentive is for the buyer, not so much the seller, it still translates into incentive for the seller
Yeah,
because it
exactly, yeah.
incentivizes the buyer. So working that direction is helpful because it's, just,
Well, a good example, Tim, would be on some of these loans, you may have to pay their closing costs, and it may be $5,000 or $6,000.
mhm.
And, especially if it's a first-time home buyer that's gonna use VA, USDA, or, along those lines. So, I mean, if you're ever gonna do anything, now's the time because money is so cheap. And I know some of these properties are going for $600 and $700 a month, and your house payment for those type of properties is gonna be half that.
So, let's try to have something on, Jan, go ahead and put this on the agenda for the next meeting, and let's try to have something drawn up, some concept or some semblance of an incentive. That's what we can take a look at and potentially vote on. Ryan,
Hold on, pause. Can I move that we approve change order by Midwestern?
Oh, yes, thank you.
For the stormwater improvement project.
We have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Change order approved as presented.
But she had a question.
I was just going to comment on what Brian was talking
If you would
about.
stand, state your name and address.
Oh, my name's Donna Tinder, and I live on Pearl Street, which Brian and probably Monty both know why I'm probably here. Right next to my home is a ridiculous home that has no gutters on it, and it's killing my basement.
What address is this?
Yeah, my address is 631, and it sits to the east of my house. And if I'm not mistaken, this house has been condemned. And I have talked to the guy that supposedly owns it, and he's not gonna do anything about it, but my basement is still gonna fall in. And Monty talked to me about maybe putting a tile between there at one point in time, so that it can put the water somewhere else besides in my basement.
This 631, is that, Ryan, do you by chance have the condemnation list?
I don't have it on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pull up. Your address is 631, correct?
Yes. And I bought this house off of the Union City Beautification Committee. The house that I'm speaking of is east of mine.
Okay.
So on the same side of the street, Oswald's?
It's
Yeah.
same side, right beside me.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to look at it, it has busted windows, the windows are busted outside. They fall into my gutters when we get wind. The house is just an eyesore.
I know it's on the condemnation list.
Oh,
They got a notice on it, actually.
I'm trying to find the address.
That's what I'm looking for too.
Is that one that's already in court?
It is.
Is it already in court?
I don't think so, yeah. But they came up to the Board of Works meeting
Oh,
on
you ought to see
that.
what's horrible.
29 or 27.
It's in the east, right?
I'm sure if you filed those others, it was with it.
Yeah.
628, maybe.
Is it?
That's
27 or
probably-
29.
It's an odd number, I know it's not.
627.
Well, 620, did that must have to be 627,
Should be
correct?
627.
Yeah, it has to be 627, it's directly east of you?
Directly east of me.
627 owned by Eva Medelis.
Yes,
So,
that's on the list.
okay,
That's in court,
okay.
Court.
yeah.
And we're applying for emergency condemnation, I mean, like,
Well, I actually was contacted, I was contacted by an individual who said that the people that bought that are wanting to fix it up.
oh good lord. This Eva Medelis bought it or
Eva Medelis,
has bought it?
right.
And the property card shows when?
Not that long ago. I don't
This
know.
shows 2008 and 08.
I referred them to Kobe,
This looks like transfer.
but it's still in court. I mean, it's in court, it's been filed.
Yes, this transfer took place in April 9, 2018 from the Stewarts to this Eva Medelis, who lives here in town on 1024 DeVolt
The
Avenue.
bull, yeah.
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
That property, what they do with that property is they move stuff in and then they move stuff out. They're not doing any improvements at all.
Okay.
They put refrigerators, stoves, and then they move them back out. I don't know.
So
if
it's a
they-
storage unit.
It's a storage unit, yeah.
When is it slated to actually
I
here
don't,
before the, do we have a court date?
I don't, I mean, if we do, I don't know it offhand, but I can get you the date.
That would be good, and,
But
is it,
the individual called me, and I just said, well, I said, you know, I've been instructed to keep these in court, and if you, that type of talk as far as settlement or whatever, I said, you need to speak with the ordinance officer, and I believe I sent out an email, and then Kobe said, he emailed me back and said, have them contact me. And I believe it was John Hannon that contacted me.
that is to try to maintain the home standing as it is, or?
No, to give them the chance to fix it up, I guess.
I believe he's a realtor.
And minister.
Oh, okay.
And Kobe said that he would talk to them. Now, I don't know if Kobe has talked to them yet. I don't know if they've made contact. I gave them Kobe's contact information, and I don't know if he has contacted them yet.
Okay. One more.
Jan, are you still charging them fees for when, and are,
I have to see if they're paying, I don't know if they are or not.
I mean, it's really a nuisance fee, but it's what, $35 a month or something along that lines, just to be tied to the water and wastewater lines.
That's a good point.
Sorry, I know we're all over the place tonight, but we kind of skipped over Hunter.
Yeah, no, trust me, I've got him written down on my list. I can't get to him yet.
It's all right. I haven't been here in a while, so
Okay.
finally didn't have a game.
Yeah, if you could give me the date between now and tomorrow morning and what that might be appearing before the judge, because that's another one where we need to have representation at the case.
Yeah.
So somebody doesn't get the wool pulled over their eyes.
Yeah.
Okay, now, well, actually, we need to go. I was going to Ryan before Hunter. Or, do you have anything else you want to go in?
I'm good. I don't have
Okay.
anything.
Okay, Hunter.
No, we got questions for you. Hunter, go ahead.
Hunter?
Where you been? What you been up to? What's going on with the school year? Give us something lighthearted for once.
Well, basically went from basketball to football and just had practice every night until like right up to like 6:30 or sometimes 6 to 8 or like times like that. So I just haven't really been able to make it, but glad to be here.
How many school days are left?
12, I think.
I can't remember. Are you a senior?
Mm-hmm.
Figure out what you're doing for college yet?
Not decided completely. Might go to Marion.
College or extracurricular outside?
Might go to I'm gonna go to college, but might go to Marion, study nursing, minor in business probably, if I do go there, and then play baseball maybe. So.
Nursing's a high
See.
demand. Cool.
Yep.
Well, if we don't see you again, if there's only 12 days left, feel free to come to that last council meeting
Absolutely.
and mention to,
Alex.
mention to her as well. Look, see you guys one last time, so.
Perfect.
We will go, we've already done the financial report.
Hold on, I got questions for Brinky.
He's on here, so hold that question. CN.
Ready for me?
Yes.
I don't know where you want me, I've got some packets for everybody.
Thank you.
I won't bring this every time, I promise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You doing okay?
Oh, you whatever you're comfortable. Oh, yeah, you do whatever you're comfortable.
All right, well, I just have lots of handouts, so I'm Cian Bells with the Randolph County United, which is the new Economic Development Chamber and Tourism Partnership. And I'm starting to go around to all the town boards, and I'd like to ask if it's okay if I come quarterly to give an update to everyone, answer questions that you might have. I'm having lots of fun going around to the different towns and meeting everyone and answering their questions and kind of give a little history. I think you guys are probably more up to speed maybe than some other of the communities, but just to let you know how we got here, in 2019, I started working with the Union City Chamber of Commerce and the Winchester Chamber of Commerce to join them and to do a merger, and that happened. We created the Randolph County Area Chamber of Commerce, and we had a board that was representative of the entire county, and then COVID hit. And my efforts shifted to seeking grants and funding, which I'll talk a little bit about, and that's what our office was consumed with. Top priority was protecting and helping our businesses. But through that process, and me being new to my position, I learned that there were other entities that had some form of partnerships between the Economic Development Office or their chamber or chamber and tourism, different aspects. So I started looking into that and thought, you know, we're a small community. Why it would make good idea to be better stewards of the money if we all just came together. And so we did that. I know, Nate, you were part of that process, and he was part of the process. One of the things that the organization decided to do was to narrow down from a 25-member board to a 15-member board, and Nate was gracious enough to say, you know what, I will step down, I will give up my seat because he believed in what we were doing to try to narrow things down, more manageable. With that said, though, we want to make sure people are very representative, still representative countywide, and so we're creating committees. And so that's where kind of brings me to part of the discussion tonight, to really make sure we get people involved, because really at the committee, that's where the real work happens. So we're wanting to make sure we get the word out, and how we're doing that is one of the things I put in your packet. I first put the membership list. So one of the things we are soliciting memberships, and we have a little over 80 members, and this is the list. You can kind of see that Michelle put it together by category, so you can see all the members here that we have in Union City. And so we're excited about that. We have a little over $40,000 raised through that, which we're excited because we reduced the amount that we asked for the county by $48,000. And so again, we're really proud of the fact that we absorbed the functionality of a Chamber of Commerce, adding no staff and reducing our budget from the county edit funds from $48,000. So again, the idea is to try to get that through private support, right? To be able to still do that. But again, the concern was how can we be better stewards of the resources. So that's what we have to date. The Ascension, St. Vincent Randolph just joined today. So there's another new one which we're really excited about. One of the things that we're doing is we're sending out monthly newsletters. I put that in your packet. It's the last thing in your packet. And as county officials, you will be receiving this. This is a membership only newsletter, but we are sending that to every elected official in the county to keep you up to speed what we're doing. Okay, so hopefully that'll help keep you informed of the work that we're doing. The thing I really wanted to talk about was this packet in here from Ball State University. And this is the work that we started in 2019 from Economic Development, working with the Indiana Communities Institute at Ball State University. Economic Development felt like we needed to go out and seek input from the community and the residents of what they wanted our office to focus on. And so literally over 1,000 people responded or were part of these groups all over the county. And what they came up with was 5 focus areas, and that's your cover sheet. So the 5 focus areas, Randolph County residents said their number one concern, this is what you guys just talked about, and they're talking about it at every single town board I'm going to, is housing and blight. We've got a lot of dilapidated homes. How can we address that? How can we deal with it? And we have a very low housing stock, which I know Union City, you guys are doing a great job with your housing initiative. So you guys are on it. So, you know, congratulations. You're being very responsive to your citizens. The second, 83% of the respondents were concerned about the drug epidemic. I think we all know that. In this, there's in-depth statistics for you. I'm not going to bore you with that, but I encourage you to read through it, the data, what the data shows. The other one, of course, we all know is broadband infrastructure, right? That the one thing we learned at COVID is having high-speed internet is no longer a luxury. It's a necessity, so it was a game changer for us, and we know that there's fundings coming down. I just met with Senator Rotz and Representative Prescott last week saying, hey, I just saw that there's funding coming to the state. I want as much here in Randolph County as possible, and so they are connecting us with the right people to make that happen. And then, of course, education. It's interesting when you look at the education data, there's really a mixture of people concerned about the quality of our schools, but then at the same time valuing the small class size. And just so you know, what our focus will be through this committee is just helping each of our 5 school systems be as strong as they can be. We feel that's our purpose and our premise. How everything that there are 5 schools is a community decision, and so our C out of our office will be collaboration, and that's what you're focusing on, because when you look at the data, you're going to see some consolidation language. Okay, so just so you know, our office and where we're taking it is that we believe strongly in collaboration and partnerships, and that's what we'll be facilitating at the educational level. And then finally, quality of life, such as we know that as young people, if we want to attract people to our communities, we're looking at trails, outdoor amenities, and whatnot. And so with that said, you're like, okay, great, CN, you've got these 5 big initiatives, now what are you going to do? Well, now the real work begins, and what I wanted to invite you to is on May 20th, we are going to have the first of 2 series of meetings, and with the Indiana Institute Communities Institute is going to come back, and they're going to facilitate that thanks to a grant from the Community Foundation that's going to fund that effort. And so from 8:30 to noon on May 20th, we invite everybody, all citizens, everyone to come to that. I do ask that you call our office at 584-3266 to RSVP, because we're going to have food. And then the other follow-up meeting, it will be June 10th, same time, 8:30 to noon at the fairgrounds, again facilitated by Ball State. The goal is now, the job is to come up with goals for each of these areas, action steps, and who's going to be responsible, and break out to committees. So you might say, I'm really interested in quality of life, and say, I'm assuming trails is going to surface, and I'm really passionate about trails, so I'm going to serve on that committee and make that happen in Randolph County. Or it could be, I'm really interested in business development, I want to be on that committee. And so you're going to see these multitude of committees going along. So we are doing everything we can to get the word out. I know I sent stuff to KISS TV last week, and so trying to get the word out to invite people, please invite people to that. And so I'm really excited about that. You're really going to see the work happening. And then the final thing in your packet is another initiative that we are part of. Our office submitted the paperwork to be part of the regional effort to work on talent attraction and development and connection, because we know now in economic development it's no longer about we need more industry here or more jobs. We need people to do the jobs we have, and we need skilled workers, and we need to help train them at all different levels. So we have created this group of 15, a coalition, a workforce development coalition of 15 individuals. I am so excited to say that all 5 county superintendents are on that committee, are engaged. And so we have a couple companies involved there, the Community Foundation, a representative from Ivy Tech as well. And so we're excited about seeing that, and again, that's going to be another big initiative to move forward. So one of the things I've heard, and you'll see when I send out the next newsletter, is I've already been told when I've talked about these initiatives, is CN, those are impossible. Really? I don't think so. And I think, what you guys have talked about as well. And I think I'm reading a book now called The Art of Impossible, and the author talks about you have to stalk impossible. And that if we don't, used to you thought the 4-minute mile was impossible, right? Going to the moon was impossible. Guess what? It wasn't. And so if we don't start somewhere, we're never going to get there. So this initiative with Ball States are really going to help us start stalking the impossible and figure out how to address these 5 issues. And so I hope that you'll join us and come along in that effort. So any other questions? And I just want to kind of close with, I wanted to update you guys on where we're at with the funding that the city got, but I wanted to answer your questions. He's not, you're shaking, he's not allowed to ask me any questions.
He's had 12, 16 years to ask me any questions he wants.
Okay.
What are the levels?
So great, no, that really is a great question. So we had a lot of conversation about this, and actually it was because the Union City Chamber was getting ready to kind of go to this more partnership levels, and used to an old chamber concept, and what we mostly were concerned of or used to, is like, okay, so if you have 1 to 5 employees, it's this much, 6 to that. Well, we really wanted to shift the focus and say, we want you to partner with us at whatever level you feel comfortable with. So we have a level from $200, and then the next phase is 500, and then 1,500, and then 5,000. We actually have 2 5,000 partners, which is Frank Camilla Lumber and New Lisbon Guard Brand. And we have another one that we're talking to that we think that's going to come in at 5,000. And basically, it's just a company saying this is what we believe in. We had a lot of conversation too about, well, what benefits would there be? Because there's different benefits. We decided that we didn't want to treat a $200 business different than a $5,000 different. $5,000 people, because it's all depending on what they can afford and what they want to do. So what we did was, the only difference is the things that actually cost us money. So like a $5,000, the highest visionary, they'll get 8 free tickets to our upcoming gala. You might get they get so many more discount cards. So anything that costs us money, the people who gave us more money get more of that stuff. But as to services and anything else, it's the same across the board. So that's how we try to differentiate between that. So, and it's different, but there are chambers and organizations that are going to that. And so I thank you for helping us get the word out about that, because it is different. We have had that question. Yeah, Tito.
How long does the membership last?
It's a year. It'll be an annual thing.
What to what? January?
It's based on when they join. So we actually purchased a membership, so it's a membership software that's based out of, it's called Growth Zone. We talked to a lot of chambers, and that way we can track things. It automatically bills them. It saves staff time, and so we have that. And so as soon as it'll automatically invoice out there and save staff overhead from having to track all that and do all that. And it can do mass emails. It's really, really cool membership software system.
With all the new businesses in Union City starting up, somebody needs to contact us.
Yeah, so.
I'm working on it.
No, so.
Nate?
My plate's full.
Any other questions?
Well, I do just want to say, I wanted to update you of where we were at with the funding. We received, if you didn't know, two $250,000 grants. This is what we worked on with COVID through Okra. And the first one was total grants, okay? So we gave out grants. We had about 57 businesses in Randolph County, and there was 5 to Union City, which totaled $21,000 for those. Then the next $250,000 we received, we matched it with $50,000 from an existing loan fund that we had. And of those, we gave out 15 loans, and the first 6 months is 0%. After that, it's 1%. After 2 years, if they're still in business and have retained a number of employees, then 50% of it will be forgiven. And of those 15 loans that went out, 7 went to Union City businesses for a total of $169,000. And then so far this year, through our general budget, we've invested $6,450 into the Union City community. We invested $5,000, Randolph County United Chamber and Economic Development Division matched tourism to do a $10,000 support of the concert series. And then we paid for the tower permits, the $900 tower permits for the school. We hosted the open house of $300. We did an alumni association at $250. And then what I'm really excited about is the Winchester Area Chamber of Commerce had $5,000, almost $5,000 in a community foundation fund, and they wanted to close that out since they were dissolving. And so they decided that they wanted to divide that amongst the 5 school systems. And so I'll be presenting, one school system did not have any, so one of the Union City students will be getting a little over $1,200 scholarship from that, and then we'll be able to close that account. So I get that's going to be the best part of my job. I get to come to the award banquet and present that, so I'm anxious to see who that student is. So I wanted to share that with you as well. So just help get the word out about us, and please, if you have any concerns, tell us. That's how we're going to get better, is if you tell us and offer us suggestions.
Did we need to pass this out or make sure it's available in the community room? It's the Okra COVID-19 Phase 2 Forgivable Loan Contract? Or was this just an example?
No, I'll talk about that.
Okay.
I gave you that.
We had a pile tonight, so.
Thank you so much, Sam.
And is it okay if I come quarterly? Is that all right?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely, I encourage
And
you.
Jan, I'll call you and schedule a time
Yeah, that'd be
to
wonderful.
get on the agenda.
Super. All right, old business. Now I will hand
Okay,
over to you.
Ryan, what is the update from the gentleman that was at last council meeting asking questions about,
811
thank you,
West Elm.
811 West Elm, and then the one on Sycamore?
Sycamore has been transferred to the city, I believe.
I move that we get bids on that immediately.
You know, we can,
I think we've already had 3 bids on that,
I
actually.
think so. I know we have one for sure.
Is that, who are the owners of that?
That Rose.
Yes, that,
It's okay.
that's been signed and I believe even recorded, so.
The other one's 811.
We'll get it
Yeah.
started.
So yeah, so the next council meeting, we'll seek to have,
Cool. And then 811 Elm, did you,
811,
that was next to the gentleman's house that was having raccoons? Scares his wife.
That's on the condemnation list, and I'm guessing it's probably in that court
I'm
process.
sure, yeah.
But it is on the list.
Can we have at the next council meeting actual updates, like
Sure.
line by line, and we know exactly where these bad boys are at? Cause
Yeah.
a couple of these, we may be able to get published and people to go, she may go talk about the meeting, for that for the house next to her house, next to 631, and then that gentleman was willing to go to that one on Elm too, so if we can get that regularly advertised, we may be able to get some of this blight taken care of sooner rather
Yeah, I mean,
than.
I can put together a list and then, email it to you guys before, email it to the council, and then.
Actually, if you just
talk about
wanna
it.
email it to Jan, could you put that in the packet?
Yep.
Perfect.
That'd be easier, probably.
That's just one you have to do, that's it.
Okay.
Any update on code
Code
enforcement?
enforcement, that's taking me a little bit longer than I thought it was
Okay.
going to, so I will try to have that complete by the next meeting.
Okay.
9, what was the address on the Sycamore one? Not 9 something? Remember, does anybody recall?
What's your address on Sycamore?
Try and get it for you.
Can't remember.
507,
Yeah.
507 was the one?
500 block.
it's the 500 block for sure.
It's a 500 block, okay. I'm just trying to check to see if it's changed. Okay. Anything else?
That was all I wanted to verify.
Anybody else on the council? Okay. The facade grant request for Attorney Gates. Steve, if you won't mind, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, this was presented to the council at the last meeting. It was, there's a glitch in the paperwork process. So I'm going to, what you've been given is a resubmittal of this. We went back and confirmed what was approved by council or passed as ordinance by council. And what got submitted to the website was the original presentation that you guys wanted to change because it was a little bit confusing, and I think you guys at the last meeting had some confusion about the grant request from the Gateses. The nuts and bolts of this presentation is basically, he's got estimates here in his packet and for just shy of 20 grand that he would like to move forward with, needing $9,600 match from the council. If you guys remember, I'm just going to give you a little history lesson. We had talked about setting aside $40,000 with a maximum outlay of potentially $10,000 per occurrence, which would allow you to work on 4 facades per year. And that's what this proposal is requesting. So the scope of the work is he's going to tuck point this wall that you see the image of. The entire wall is in need of repair. He has the window sills and the lintels are in need of repair and replacement. Todd Landis, who is a very talented master mason, is doing all the work. And the Gates family would have been here, but they had some medical procedures done last week, and they were unsure if they could be here today. So again, once last council meeting was over, there was some conversation with Tony, and there was just some confusion with the last presentation. So I'm here to ask that it be clarified and you guys pass and approve this facade work to be done on that building.
Yeah, so the actual grant request was $9,600.
Correct. And he had all that in the, you've got the original application. It was in there, but it was hard to pull out exactly what the information was.
And to stay the course of jumping all over the place, it's actually 430 Sycamore Street, and it is in the Union City Redevelopment Commission name on GIS. So we will indeed have the quotes to bid on for the next, or not bid on, to vote on for the next meeting.
And I think at the last meeting, we had voted for 5,000 for Tony.
It was actually 4, I believe, but.
I'm looking at the minutes. It says 5,000 towards 20 Gates.
I'm gonna do a public service announcement. If you are in the construction business and you like to tear houses down and have insurance, please feel free to come talk to Monty to get the packet that you would need to quote that house to be torn down. It sounds like we will be voting at the next council meeting. So this is an open invitation to anybody watching or hears about this. Please come quote it to be torn down. There are certain standards that Monty is going to make sure we stay to per ordinance, but that is something, we don't care who does it. Do good work, have insurance, make sure it's put the way it's supposed to.
Yes, Tito, you are correct.
So the proposal then is to raise it to
9,600.
9,600.
Which is 50% of his lowest quote.
Okay.
Any questions?
How much is left in that fund still?
The only one that you guys have done or assisted for 2021 was Loose Tacos, and it was 3,000.
3,000, yeah.
At the last meeting.
But how much total was it?
37,000.
Was it 40 was what we appropriated for that fund?
Yeah.
Correct.
I'll make the motion, we accept the request for $9,600 for the facade grant match for Tony and Rhonda Gates, based on the project estimate.
Do we have a first, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
There's a dead heat. You pick, Jan, between Brandon and Tito.
Just a question before we
yes.
vote on that. When do we give funds? Is it after the,
Yeah, it'll be after the completion. Todd has not started the project yet. He has been basically ready to go. The material's in. It's actually staged at the properties, but he hasn't started the work yet.
okay.
Jan, if you would mind, roll call vote.
Brandon Elmore,
Yes.
Bob Lay.
Yes.
Nathan Conklin,
Yes.
Tim Heiss.
Yes.
Peter Frias.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to new business. Hold on. Yes, oh, that's right, you told me you had 3 things. Is that one of the 3, or is that 3 in addition to that?
That's one.
Okay.
So number 2, I handed everybody, and this is from CN, but this is, you guys, we had talked a while back about a revolving loan fund here locally. You requested to see what the county is using. This is the paperwork packet that I was given by the county for your review. I want to stress the importance of this here locally, simply because currently we've got 2 potentials to take advantage of this. One is, well, they're both potentially new businesses. One is needing equipment, and they aren't getting much help from their local bank because the amount that they're asking for is not really a lot of money, and it's just not an easy thing. The other one is a little bit trickier, but I think it's got a lot of potential. And I just really think that there's some benefit and some positive things that could be done if the council so chooses to move forward with that revolving loan fund. I know the county actually just helped one of our businesses here locally with and approved a small revolving loan fund. That was loaned at I think 1%. That's something that's going to help businesses be successful. It's going to help them get started, get off the ground. It's going to help them maybe get over a hump that they just need to stay in business.
I've got a question that Cian may be able to answer here. Is that fund fully reestablished?
For ours, yeah, we still have a little. The one that we just gave out was 20,000.
Okay.
And we only had about 50,000 in it.
Okay.
But some of the stuff that we'll be getting back through Oprah will go in, and then we're working on the EDA loan that we thought we were gonna have to give back, but now we don't have to give back, but we kinda have to give back. So I'll get back to you on that.
It's still in that limbo, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. All right. Well, let us know if that continues, otherwise we may come up with something here too.
Yeah, exactly. I'll let you know when I find out from Chicago, so.
That makes absolute sense if it's.
It doesn't make absolute sense. I'm learning my new role just to get used to that. It is a tad frustrating, but yeah.
And then Steve, is it the USDA revolving loan fund?
That's the application that the county uses for their revolving loan.
Okay.
fund. So you wanted a copy of that so you could review it. Again, kind of my charge from the city is to go develop these things, and that this is just another tool that I can put under my arm to go help these businesses be successful. So it's completely your choice and your decision, but I'm telling you it's probably helpful.
Cian, what was the dollar amount max that the Okra COVID-19 phase 2 was giving out? 25,000?
Phase 2 was 25,000, correct. Phase 1 was 10. And we do not have that. That's what we're kind of talking about internally. We do not have one for the revolving loan. It's just kind of, I guess it used to be like 10%, I think, and this was what, almost 50%, because they believe so much in the project. And so we're gonna try to determine some guidelines, as well. And Steve and I talked about, the importance, if you guys do start one, that's great, but to make sure that we're working very closely, which I don't think will be an issue at all, to make sure that we're just helping people as much as we can without tripping over each other, right? And so, that's what we'll have to figure out, if you guys choose to move forward with that, and we'll make it work,
Do either one of you know the max or minimum amount USDA revolving loan fund application would allow?
The minimum amount?
Yeah.
No.
How about maximum?
There is none, and that's from Greg Beimer, because he sat in when we did the one here locally, just since I was new and hadn't been through one, and he said USDA is very relaxed in how they do that, so.
And then I've got one more thing just to pitch. And I'm gonna go all the way back to, I think, maybe your first or second council meeting as the present council. There was a proposal on the table to invest in the building across the street. The council's opinion at that time was you don't have a problem investing in one of our buildings. You just didn't want to own the building. We have that opportunity. Again, the building it has an unbelievable amount of potential. We have a new business wanting to go to work inside that building, but the current owner of the building doesn't have the time and or the resources currently to do the renovations and get them in there. They're looking at about $30,000 in renovations to get this business up and running and to make it a rentable space. So that's just another thing that I'm bringing to you guys for your consideration, and I don't really expect an answer today, but it's something that if that is still the preference of the council to maybe consider something like that, I can bring more details at the next meeting.
So the proposal is that if we choose, that the city would buy the property?
It's basically an investment into an existing structure in the building. That, I mean, we see what happens when we don't invest into these buildings. They deteriorate and ultimately start falling down. I mean, I just barricaded one that's falling down literally as we speak. So there's all kinds of pros and cons to it, and the conversation goes 17 different directions. But it's...
Is the current owners gifting this to the city, or are they asking
Nope.
us to purchase?
Nope.
Do we know a dollar amount?
As far as if we purchase it, I don't really think he wants to sell it. It's just a timing issue for him. That he can't renovate it because of other things he's got committed.
So we would renovate it so that he could sell it?
Nope, he doesn't want to sell it. It's going to be putting a business in our downtown.
Oh.
He's putting the
He's
business
personally
in.
putting the business in?
Nope, he's
He's
not.
gonna
So he would rent it out?
He's
to a
gonna
business.
rent it out for business.
Again, we're just having conversation.
Any discussion about repaying that back? The
I
renovation?
think there could be, yeah. Everything's on the table. I'm just throwing out things that I'm being talked to about, and I'm just keeping everything moving. That's all we're doing. We're not making promises, we're not making commitments. I'm just bringing to you guys what people's bringing to us.
The ARP funds, with the flexibility that they've increased regarding that funding, a lot.
Possibility.
One of the goals of that entire funding initiative is small business assistance and development, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'm confused. Is it this building across the street?
No. I'm happy to talk to you guys outside of the meeting on a one-on-one basis if you want more details. I'm not going to toss out names or addresses.
Well, that's important in my mind.
I know it is, but we're not making any decisions tonight. We talked about that. Ultimately, you guys were willing to invest in the building as long as the city didn't own it. Now we've got the same situation. Somebody else owns the building. They just need help investing in to make it rentable space for developing a business.
Yeah, I don't mind the concept.
So I'm just tossing it out. If you're still interested in that concept, then we need to start putting some numbers and some facts and some details to the concept. If you're not interested in it, I'm going to drop it today.
I know you well enough that that's not the case.
So let's form a committee to do that, right? I volunteer.
Good. Appreciate that.
Steve just doing what he was asked.
I like the concept.
Let's have this on the agenda for the next meeting, because this is definitely going to require more conversation. Was that the third item?
That'll work. I think that was already more than prepared.
Sorry, I lost track. Okay. New business, ordinance number 2021-07, which is the ordinance amending Union City Municipal Code Title 34. And this is on the first reading. This is regarding the ARP plan.
The what?
The ARP, Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund. Basically, in essence, establishing the fund that will be hereby known as the ARP Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund. And it states its sources of funding to include monies allocated to the city from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. And will be distributed to the city in 21 and 22, this year and next. And the uses of the funding, the city shall only appropriate and use the funds to cover costs incurred by the city, by December 31st, 2024. So again, this is something that we can't just bank and put away. It's something that actually has to be allocated. So it's all in response to the coronavirus. And you see there, impact, due to negative impact on households, small businesses, nonprofits, and also tourism, travel, and hospitality. It's also to aid workers who had to respond, essential workers for COVID-19. Let's see, moving along, for provision of government services, the extent of the reduction in revenue of this to the city due to COVID-19, and make necessary investments in, one of these possibilities also is to make necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. Basically, this outlines the fact that the Common Council shall adopt a plan which will provide details for the use of the fund. So this ordinance, it's important to note, may be amended from time to time if additional guidance is received from any federal, God willing, or state agency. So we've all kind of, it's been a very fluid situation for all of us communities in terms of knowing how this is going to play out. The ARP Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund shall exist until terminated by ordinance of the Common Council. Monies from this fund may not be transferred to another fund of the city. And its effective date will take effect upon passage by the Common Council and approved by the mayor. So that encapsulates what the essence of this ordinance. It's feeding off of what we had to pass earlier. Last meeting or meeting before that, just stating that it's kind of a guideline for, you're getting money, you got to use it in a certain way, you got to use it by a certain time.
So I'll move that we adopt ordinance 2021-07, ordinance amending Union City Municipal Code Title 34 on first reading, excuse me.
We have a passage on the first reading. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a first and second. Jan, if you would roll call vote.
Brandon Elmore,
Yes.
Bob Leahy.
Yes.
Nathan Conklin.
Yes.
Tim Heiss.
Yes.
Peter Freed.
Yes.
Is there any emphasis on the suspending the rules, or are we okay to leave this for next?
Are we I don't think we're in a hurry. I
Okay.
mean, like you said, we passed it before creating the fund.
Right.
The reason this came up, like you said, it's fluid and we keep getting more information.
Right.
So there was more details to this one than the one we previously passed. But the fund's been created, so I don't know when we get the money.
Yeah.
But as far as the rest of this, I mean, if you want to suspend the rules, you know.
Well,
but
change,
it's
Laura's
not-
probably gonna change before our next meeting
Exactly.
anyways.
Might as well just
So might as well just write it.
go and see
Yeah.
if it changes.
Shannon, can I ask a question?
Yes, if you don't mind, state your name and.
Bob Gentry. What's his name? How much money is the city getting?
719,000 or 720,000?
725.
725,000
To Union City.
to Union City.
That's an interesting figure.
Yes, in so many ways it is.
Yes.
It was based on population, allegedly.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, no, you're welcome, very welcome. Now, the last one, this is an odd one. This is part and parcel for this meeting and for government in general. This is additional appropriation resolution for the Union City Library. If you recall, the city council approved match funding, or actually funding for the sidewalk and for the library, and the library pledged to contribute funds. Well, under new state library board guidelines, they have to have this document approved by you guys so they can give you money. So if you follow that, that is the truth of the matter. And so this, as you see on the form there, it shows you what they have allocated in the fund, and it requires a vote from city council and approval from city council, at which case it also requires a signature from the clerk treasurer of the city. That is, quite frankly, what it boils down to.
And Mayor,
Yes.
I'm on the library board.
Awesome, I didn't know that.
It's really, something glamorous. But, no, it's, so it's just going from one library fund to another library fund is all that is. And now the city, so the library board, because the State Board of Accounts doesn't trust anybody, so or any entity. So the library board has to have a overseeing body, which is the city council, which I believe you've been briefed on that.
Yes, briefly.
So, yeah, but it's been, I mean, it's been a kind of an expensive year for the library over the past year because we had we had damage on the south side that was fixed last year. Now we're currently, there's water damage, constant water damage down the basement to the east side of the wall there. We're fixing that. And then, of all things, that little tiny elevator had to be fixed. The door had to be replaced. So, I mean, these are all things that, you know, we're due, but we want to keep it up because the library is it's a
Vital resource.
well, plus, and the building itself is a historic landmark for Union City, so, yeah, so that's it,
No, I appreciate that. And in fact, meeting with the librarian last week, he's got a plan that plays well in DNR's visit to us, 2 weeks ago when you guys spent a couple hours with DNR? That he has some trees he's identified that he would like to replenish out there in the front lawn of the library. And I told him I would share that with you guys and we'll try to work with DNR.
That's interesting, because she identified some that need to come down.
Yeah, well, he stated that, because they're about ready to lose a couple more. He said the bad thing is that when they lose those, it's gonna be an open lot unless we do something. And so I said it's an opportunity to team with DNR, because then the DNR stated they have funds that could
She
go
spotted
toward.
the one from a moving vehicle.
She what?
Spotted the one from a moving vehicle.
Oh, the DNR representative. Okay, I see. Yeah, yeah, he hopefully it's the one he pointed to when he shared it with me. Well, without further ado, I would hereby entertain a motion.
I move that we approve notice to taxpayers of additional appropriations in the amount of $2,800 from the library to set up an account under the city to spend money on the library.
Excellent.
I'll second.
Who said that?
Bob?
Oh, Bob, you don't have a mask on, I couldn't spot it. Janet, who would, roll call vote?
Brandon Elmore,
Yes.
Bob Leahy.
Yes.
Nathan Hopland.
Yes.
Tim Heiss.
Yes.
Tito Frias.
Yes.
Can I add one thing to that real quick?
Yes.
Don't ask about when the sidewalk's going to be done, because I'm using the contractor uptown. We don't need that until the time for the parade, so it's going to be done later in July.
So you can start asking in July.
Jen, can we put that on the agenda?
Visitors wishing to address the board, please state your name, address, and nature of business. Do you have any visitors wishing to address the board?
Yes. My name is Eric Luster, and I'm here on behalf of my mother, Becky Addington. And she'd gotten served, this is about one of them buildings that, kind of like Mr. Conklin was talking about, but it's actually a beautiful building, let me tell you. It's really historical, and it's got some old barn siding on it, but actually, no, it does need to come down. We do agree with you guys that it needs to come down, but what we didn't agree with, which I talked to Monty a little bit on, touched base with him this week on, was the way we went about doing it and getting the letter to us. This letter that came from your guys' lawyer, Mr. Prinkley, she had gotten on May 6th, and she was to be in court on May the 10th because the city was suing her to have this building tore down, which I was just totally taken back and surprised by it because, you know, the things that this city's got going on and other buildings sitting around that look a lot worse than this building, and this building's setting back in an alley that's hardly ever traveled at all, you know. So, yeah, we agree with you, it does need to be taken down. We don't agree in the timely manner of the way you guys wanted it taken down, considering we have other things that have sat in this town for decades that needed taken down and still haven't been taken down and people haven't been sued for. So we weren't very happy with that. So I guess, and we did go to court. You guys did get it taken care of. Mr. Prinkley got it thrown out, got it taken care of. We appreciate that. But that doesn't mean that we're gonna sit back and do absolutely nothing. This barn is now in the process of being taken down now.
What's the address?
So, 114 Division. This particular house, it wasn't a rental. actually, my mother acquired this house in a very different way, but I won't go into that. That involves family, so I won't go into that. But anyhow, she's now got the house, okay? Now, whether she wants to keep the house and rent it, I don't know. We've talked about it. We've actually talked about selling it because of the amount of money that she's been putting in it, because this house will be totally new. We're talking all new plumbing, electrical, drywall. The floors were all shored up. She put $5,000 in the foundation. To this point, she spent $13,470 and what, 42 cents of your own money in this house, okay?
On a limited income.
She's on a limited income, you know, she's retired, she's on Social Security. So as she gets the money, I go over there and I bring my brother with me and we rehab this house. She has since ran out of money, so we pulled off, which is fine because I got 30-some rentals of my own over in Greenville. So I had some things over there I had to get taken care of over there for the health department and my insurance company and things like that. So when she gets money built up, then what we do is we come back and we work on this house for her. We have this house already in the stage of all the plumbing's done, all the electrical's done, all the drywall's been hung, the foundation's done, the Amish come in and put that in, and now we're at the stage, all the walls are painted. So now what we're ready for is underlayment on the floors, finished floors, kitchen cabinets, interior doors, and trim. And once that's done, this house will be done. Well, we're actually going to tear off the back part of the house. There's a covered porch. You can't see it, but the porch is shot. So we're going to take that off, and we're going to build a wood deck on there, is what we're going to do there. So the project is going to get finished. Now, do I have a time frame on that project? No, I don't. It all depends on funds. Just like you folks understand that, just like with the apothecary shop up here. You know, it's all based on funds. Just like moving this building over here to be the bathroom over here. It's all based on funds when you get the funds, you know. So I guess what I'm up here to say is I'm asking you guys to be a little more compassionate for your citizens in this town and realize that not everybody has the funds that this town has at their fingertips when it comes to grant money and donations, you know. Because some of the elderly in this town, you know, like my mother, she's on a fixed income, you know, and she don't have the funds that you guys can get to move a building, $100,000 to move a building, or $50,000 from private investors and things like that. You know, we understand that.
Can we get a couple things clarified?
Pardon me?
Can we get a couple things clarified?
Yes, sir.
The May 6th, the letter, was there no previous communication about this property?
In 2019 there was, in 2019 there was, which we got that letter, which we then come up here and spoke to your father.
Okay.
And, which by the way is an excellent fellow. I like him. He's straight to the point, he don't mix words. But as we sat down, we talked with him and told him what we were doing, and he'd seen what we were doing. And I talked to Chad Spence, I think, actually that same year, and you were going to be taking over his position, and I explained to you what we were doing because you had mentioned, because we had a little mix up there on the yard being mowed too, where the city mowed the yard, and you guys basically told us not to worry about it, that we didn't have to pay the $100 fee to have the yard mowed because we had pictures of it. And that's when Brian said, no, don't worry about it. He said, we'll take care of that. You're not going to pay that. He goes, it should have never been mowed by the city. And which it shouldn't have. It was maybe this tall. And so anyhow, that was thrown out. Well, then, like I said, I talked to Chad. The reason why it wasn't mowed is because we was having the foundation done. The Amish were there. They were kicking brick out in the yard. So we just didn't mow the yard for that week. Well, we had a couple days of rain that went by, so the brick sat out there. They didn't work on the foundation because of the rain. Then they came back the next week, finished up the foundation. Then we had another day of rain, I think was in there. My brother said we had like 3 days of rain total in 2 weeks. And we pulled off to go to Greenville to do one of my houses where we had to move out and get it ready. Well, the brick had sat there. The brick was there a total of 2 weeks. We got a letter about the brick. I mean, it's just like, for some reason, this council or whoever it is drives around, they hone in on 114 Division. And we just can't figure out what is going on with 114 Division. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we put a new roof on it. Yeah. The outside, the porch was falling in. I totally went in and ripped the post out of the porch, propped the porch up, put a whole new beam in and everything. That's all going to get wrapped with metal. It's all going to get vinyl sided underneath the porch. The house itself, the siding don't look bad on the house at all because it's aluminum, white siding. So we are doing things to this house. She is putting money in this house. You know, unlike a lot of homes around here, there are people, I know there's houses around here people are living in right now with blue tarps on them that leak water inside, and they're not putting a dime in the house. They're just living in it as it is. You know, so we're on board. You know, we are cleaning up that house. We have tore down, there was 2 barns there. We did tear down 1 barn. So we're on board. You know, I got a bunch of rentals. I understand what it's like. People, you know, I have, just like he said, renters don't take care of homes the way homeowners take care of homes. Okay? So, and I'm a little more strict on my renters. You know, if the yard's not mowed, I'm on them. If the yard's not kept clean, I'm on them. Because just like he said, I told him, there's nobody that should have to come home and should have to look at a yard that's not been mowed, or a bunch of trash laying around, or a bunch of kids' toys out in the yard that's not been picked up. We understand that. We get it. You know? But like I say, we just didn't appreciate, she got the letter. 2019 is when we first heard about it. We addressed it with him. He knew we were doing work down there. He said, boys, we know you're doing it. He goes, when you guys get to it, he goes, it is no real big issue. It's back in the alley. He said, when you get to it, he goes, that's fine. So we said, okay. We went right away and tore the little one down, which was a major eyesore. Tore it down, got rid of it, okay? The big one sitting back there doesn't really look that bad. Yeah, it's missing some boards. It would need painted, you know, but it's coming down. We don't want it, you know, and if she decides to sell the house, it's an eyesore sitting there for somebody to look at if she wants to sell the house. So we are definitely getting rid of it, and we're actually in the process of it now. My boom truck's over here, sitting there, it's ready to go. Cool. Unfortunately, I'm busy. I'll be in Greenville, so we got 1 person working on it. So it's not going to be an overnight issue because she's on limited funds. We can't hire somebody to come in and just wipe it out and take it out and sow the grass, okay? So, but back to what I said from 2019. Well, we never heard another thing. We thought we were doing the right thing.
We've had 4 ordinance officers since that time. Unfortunately, there's been some continuity of communication, which we've gotten worked out, and things are running a lot smoother.
Okay, well, that sheds some light on it.
Yeah.
I would say that
things are running a lot smoother. A lot of us are in communication with Mr. Prinky, as well as Kobe and Mr. Wright, and things are running a lot smoother.
Right.
I'm not sure what may have happened here, but
Well, I will say, and we talked this morning, it was on my condemnation list, so when I filed the list, I filed all of them. And we asked for that to be set for hearing, like we were doing for all of them. I don't know why they set that so soon. They said
yeah, we got a letter on May 6th, we'll be in court May 10th, but the letter said you had 20 days.
Yeah, I don't know
to respond.
And this is a bunch of stuff that you probably you know, no one but someone who works with the court probably understands, but they changed this a couple years ago from regular filing with the clerk's office to e-filing. What that means is that the clerk's office no longer is in charge of sending out summons and any of that. That's all on the attorney. So the process is we file our complaint and our summons with the court. They get it, and then they assign a date to it, and then they have to process it, and then they send it by email back to us. Then we have to take the filed paperwork, put it in an envelope, and physically go to the post office and send it certified. We either send it certified or we have to do it by sheriff, certified sheriff. So there's some sort of a problem between if they set it too soon, the mail's too slow, and so then people are getting, like you have, only 3 days before a hearing.
Right.
Yeah.
We were like,
yeah.
She's calling me, she's bawling, and I'm like,
right.
At the very least, she's like, I'm going to court and I only got 3 days. And I'm like, what? For what?
But we just went ahead and dismissed it because they'd already done what they had to do, so.
Right. So, and like I say, back to the house, we're going to get the house done. Now, can I give you a time? No. She's on limited funds. As she gets funds, I've been off of it for what now? Maybe 5 months? And she's been saving funds. When she gets funds saved back up, then I'll get back over here. We'll go buy some more things and get it done. When that house is done, it's going to have brand new sidewalks in front of it. It's going to have a brand new sidewalk going up to the porch because they're shop. They need done. We know they need done. So we're going to do it. We want to do the right thing. But unfortunately, she don't have the funds like the city has, you know, unless some of that money you're talking about, you wanna give us, or maybe a look.
Give me a call. The only thing on that condemnation though was the barn, I believe.
Yes,
So
right,
the
yes.
house was completely not involved in any of that, so.
Correct.
I don't think you've got any sightings or anything on the house since 2019, is that correct?
No,
Okay.
no.
You are a prime example of what we're hoping people would do.
We don't wanna be slumlords.
And
And if anybody hates this city worse, it's me, because it's my money going out and I don't have any coming in. It's sitting there and I pay taxes and insurance on it, and I have for several years, because I just fix it little by little as I get time.
And it's not something that she sought out to get as an investment, it just, like I say, it happened. So,
Well,
and now we're trying to see it through,
And,
you know?
and like say, one of the things that happens sometimes when somebody gets a house thrown in their lap like that, rather than
Correct.
do anything to it, invest in it, try to do something with it, they just broom it. And then it sits there and it gets condemned and it gets torn down and it's on the taxpayers.
Exactly, which
to
costs,
do that.
which costs all
And
the
it-
citizens
and you-
more
and
money
you
to live
just-
here and.
So
Right.
yes, you know, that's one of the things that, you're far more responsible than, I mean, you're being responsible, whereas other people are just walk away.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna say it's not, you know, I'm not gonna say, you know, maybe it shouldn't have been done a year ago, or this, you know, I'm not gonna say, but just the funds just aren't there right now. You know,
Yeah.
and they will be, like I say, they will be.
There's a difference though between what you're talking about and what we generally deal with, and that is, you're talking about effort being made and progress being made. You've demonstrated it. And
Right.
That's the difference.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And what we tend to deal with is what Tim alluded to, is the fact that nothing, we'll get told some things and then 3 years later, nothing's happened.
this property's showing progress. You're happily here explaining. I apologize about the mix-up. Sounds like.
Yeah, and I had told Brian too, back then, I told him that anybody is welcome to come down and do a walkthrough and take a look at it and see what we've done. I'll show you, it's all new bathrooms, everything, it's all new. It's gonna be like a brand new house when you walk in. So, you know, and then, I believe she's been talking about selling. So, you know, if it's something we can do and get it sold, you know, that'd be great. But if we have a problem and we can't sell it, she's not gonna have any other choice but to rent it, because you have to get some income, some of that money coming back that you put out. You know, we are a little bit concerned with the house on the corner of Division and State Line there. We had thought it was gonna be tore down, but then I found out that, no, it was not gonna be tore down. So, okay.
That's fluid.
That's still the
Right,
process.
so what we are concerned with there is the fact that we may be trying to sell this house with, you know, so, and we understand, you know. And if that house doesn't get tore down, but somebody gets it and maybe rehabs it or makes it look nicer, to me, it makes no difference whether it's tore down or standing and looks nice.
Yeah.
I'd rather it stand and look nice, you know, than be probably tore down.
Well, and that's
You know.
just a few spots in that neighborhood being better would be,
just a
make a
few.
vast
And it-
improvement
yeah,
there.
it would.
It's not beyond hope by any means, and that's
Right.
what like I say, I'm excited to see you get that house done, because there's some other houses that need to be brought up too, but,
Well, that's why we were so
it isn't gonna
shocked.
take a lot, just a push in the right
Right,
direction. and
that's
it's
why
gonna-
that's why I was so taken back when she called me and, you know, I was like, well, what's going on? And she's like, well, I'm being sued by the city. I said, for what? You know, I said, we've done a lot to that house, you know, to the appearance of the outside and everything, you know. And when she said it was the barn, I said, the barn set back by the alley? She said, yeah. And I said, oh, okay, well, we'll see what we can do about it. And I just made a few phone calls to my lawyer, which is on the Ohio side. So I then called Jason Welch in Winchester, and he advised me what to do, and then that's when I got with Mr. Brinkley. So, and then you guys did a great job really of taking care of it, and of course, Monty did a great job of listening to me Friday. And I was very upset.
Well, thank you so much. But
Poor guy, he's orphaned. No, I wasn't that bad. I wasn't that bad, but yeah, and that's just why I'm here. I just wanted to address that, you know. It's not that I mean, we knew that he got dismissed today, but instead of just not coming up here and saying anything to you, I just kinda wanna let you guys know where we were at on the project and where we're gonna be at on it in the future, you know, and that we wanna see it through and we're gonna see it through.
Well, and I would say, and I know it's getting late, but that, we're dealing with people's real estate, people's property, and that's something that you can't take it lightly. I mean, because that's one of the fundamental principles of our, you know, your right to own real estate. So we are trying to be as, I guess, as thoughtful and as merciful as we can, because there are people that have issues, they can't fix it, they can't, and that's prime, you know, a prime example of that is the state line property. I mean, they came in and they showed that they had all this lined up for work and all this stuff, and according to our ordinance officer, there for a couple of months they were doing work on it, but then it looks like it's stopped, you know. So here we are, and it's just, I guess everything is a case-by-case basis, and we're just walking a tightrope to make sure that we give mercy where mercy is due, but then if you use your boot when that's due too.
See, that's what
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Ryan. But it's just, don't be sorry for that. But it's, I mean, that, I guess that's my point, is that it is, you know, we want, you know, we don't want to, I'm speaking for the city, but it's not the city's goal to tear down everyone's house. I mean, that's not at all what we're trying to do. And
but I think though, people need to understand, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here, there are some people that really are just in it for the money. And we know that they're no longer at these meetings anymore, and because the boot's not there. I think you need to stir them up and say, this is unacceptable. Running a water line from one property to another? Yeah. Come on.
Yeah, that's crazy. We wouldn't get by that
at all. I mean,
but we also got to think this too. You know, it's not just landlords. I mean, now, you know, like I say, this is the only other property she owns in Indiana, so you know, it's not like she owns a bunch of them. This is an ongoing problem. Like I say, this is a different circumstance than what you guys are talking about. This is something that, like you said, just got handed to her in her lap, and now she's trying to make the best of it to get some of her investment back. And I'm the son trying to help her do that. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I'm at with that. Like Mr. Prinkley said though, yeah, you are dealing with people's livelihoods, you are dealing with their real estate. For most people, I would say it's probably the single most investment they'll ever make in their life, money-wise, you know. So therefore, some people take it serious and then others don't. You do have some homeowners that don't own but one house here, and there's quite a few of them in this community that are doing the same thing that some of these landlords are doing. You know, that are living in these homes, and some of them look like they didn't need tore down, or they got an outbuilding that needs tore down. But with that being said, like he said, was shown the compassion is that, you know, not everybody has the funds to do what Joe may be able to do down the road, you know, or Harry can do over here on his side of the street, or, you know what I'm saying? Could be a situation where maybe they purchased that house and things were great the day they purchased it, and then all of a sudden, for some unforeseen reasons like this situation, you know, that now they don't have the funds that they once had when they bought that house. So now things have been in disarray a little bit and awry, and they don't have the money to do the things they do. And I understand that too. And then again, like Brian said, there are some people that just absolutely, they have the money, but they're just, well, I'm just not going to spend it on that. I want this new car over here. You know, and they're just not going to do it, and they're going to let their single most costly investment go by the wayside. Right. You know, and unfortunately, you get some of that.
Right. Thank you so much. Seriously, I appreciate you coming up here and addressing us. And
my mom, she was so upset. She said, "Well, well, I go to church with the mayor. Well, I can't believe this. And then she'd start crying again. She said, well, you know, we're Christians. We're not supposed to do that. I said, well, Mom, this is business. I said, this has nothing to do with you going to church with him or you guys being Christians and Christians not supposed to sue Christians. I said, and that's what I told her. And then she just would cry a little more. And I said, well, here's the thing. I said, it also says that you have to abide by the laws of the land. And one of the laws of the land are they have ordinances. And you have to abide by them ordinances, you know, and those are the laws of the land, you know. So, but once I got her past it, it wasn't personal like that, I think she's okay now. You know, so, but, that, you know, and that, so I just basically, that's why I wanted to come up here for, just to let you guys know where we were at with it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. The day of the next city council meeting will be May 24th, and that'll be heading into Memorial Day weekend. So Monday, May 24th will be 2 days after our community cleanup at 6 p.m. The Board of Works meeting will be that same day at 1 p.m. So I would hereby entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We have a first, second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.